His podcast?
Yeah, podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is.
Yeah. Let's see AI make an intro like that, y'all. Let's see artificial intelligence loop up Meek Mill talking about how he doesn't know what a podcast is. And make something as brilliant, as life-changing, as earth-shattering as the Wax's podcast jingle you just heard. Now, this was probably 10 years ago. That was on the old Breakfast Club. Maybe they still do the Breakfast Club. But Meek Mill was talking about somebody who talked shit about him on a podcast. And when he mentioned it, he was like, podcast? We don't even know what a podcast is, as if podcasting was like this big nerdy thing. And I thought it was awesome. So I looped that up. And the fact that he called a podcast, maybe on purpose, maybe just accidentally, or maybe that's just like the Philadelphia slang that he has, that it sounded like piecast. So if you're new to my podcast and you see somebody comment with the word piecast, that's the origin of that. And with those drums and that bass line and that beauty that was brought to the track by none other than yours truly, I just don't see how artificial intelligence could possibly have enough data and terabytes worth of information collected from all the libraries and databases in the universe. Even with all that information, it beat the best chess player in the world. It outprogrammed the best coder in the world. It easily defeated the world's fastest Pac-Man player, even back in the 80s. And right now, it go toe-to-toe with the best Minecraft player and build the best fucking cube-based city you've ever seen. All of that it can do, artificial intelligence can do, but I'm sure that it can't create a podcast jingle quite like a human being can. Anywho, my name is Wax. Welcome to Wax's podcast. This is episode 179. I would love to talk about some of like the weird little arguments and drama and stuff that I've had in my life recently. The kind of like needless arguments, stupid arguments. Not with my wife, not with my family. So I don't think I have anything going on with my family. Me and my wife and my kid, we're doing great. Any argument we had was probably either fucking sarcastic or about what we wanted to eat for lunch, which is the only thing that we have sometimes difficulty agreeing on. But, you know, how many times, that's just my thing. I clear my throat during the podcast. I don't take time. When I do these podcasts, I sit down and just start talking. So, of course, I didn't do a vocal warm-up or not. You know, I'm going to be clearing my throat as usual on this episode, just as I did on the last 178 episodes. So be ready. That one was a little exaggerated for comedic effect. Anywho, I say that to say this. I don't want my life to be a series of battles. There are a lot of people in this world, the people that are the most like this become lawyers and politicians and possibly football coaches, things like that. There's a lot of people in this world that view life as a series of conflicts or a series of like deals and bargains. And when I say that, I don't mean, hey, let's all be happy and how can we accommodate everyone so everyone's happy. It's more like, how can we get one over on them instead of them getting one over on me? And I think that maybe 50% of the people that have this kind of way of living and attitude, it's based on how they grew up. Maybe they grew up in an environment where it seemed like everybody was out to get them, or everybody was scheming on them, and everything was a hustle and everything was a scam or whatever. So people look at life as the next person is always out to get them and always like has some card up their sleeve that they're not trying to show. I think 50% of the people that kind of operate like life is a series of like transactions where you try to get one over on people. 50% of them grew up in some kind of situation where it was actually like that. So you have of course you see life like that, where if you grew up and the only people you knew were silent Buddhist monks, that you would think that everybody was a silent Buddhist monk. You kind of think when you're a kid that everybody's like your parents. I've talked about that on the podcast before. It's not till you're in your late teens, early 20s that you kind of go like, oh, everybody's just a dumb person and has their own way of doing things. My dad was nothing like that girl's dad. In fact, they're complete opposites. But the other 50%, I think, were maybe born with the thing that some people were born with, where it's like life is just like that. It's it's a natural thing in the animal world. In order to reproduce or get the best helping of food, you have to try to dominate the other animal. Say you're a group of 6 lions that are feasting together on the dead elephant that you all killed as a team. There might be like the one lion that gets the most food. Maybe there's a socialist lion pack where they all kind of feast equally, and I like to think that that's the case. But from what I've seen, usually it's still kind of every man for himself, and to a degree. They might like give a couple little scraps for the small young lion that has a broken leg or something like that. They might have some level of sympathy for that, but for the most part, it's kill or be killed, survival of the fittest. Let me get as much as I can. That's for the most part what it is in nature, and we are animals ourselves, so we operate like that in a way. And I think some people operate like that more so. I would hope that we evolved into a place where we all are just, living together and trying to help each other out, which I think we are to a degree, but the people at the top are the most competitive people. The people that feel like I wish everybody would feel. That maybe they work for the Peace Corps, elementary school teachers, nurses, things like that. The other end of it is smart people who operate as if life is this big fucking battle. Smart people who operate like that are lawyers and politicians. Not so smart people who operate like that. I'm not saying that this is not 100%, but maybe some of them are security guards. Maybe some of them are police officers. Maybe some of them are even, I was going to say boxers, but that could either go either way. I think that with sports, some people are super, super intelligent or just kind of dumb and strong. It could go either way. How many times can I clear my throat? Let me clear my throat. I should have that. I should have that on standby. Maybe I'll evolve to the point where I have like some kind of sound effect box on this podcast besides my stupid fucking mouth. Right now, the only sound effect box is my mouth. Boing. Is there a siren outside? Is there a fire engine approaching? Oh, I'm sorry, the garbage truck's outside. Anywho, all this stuff makes me say this, and I've said this. I can think of 2 different unnecessary arguments that I got into in the last couple months. One of them was pretty much today and yesterday, but one of them was about a month or 2 ago. And I got in these unnecessary arguments and unnecessary battles where there is no battle. And what I want to say to the other person is like, I just want peace. I want peace in my life. I'd rather have peace than an extra $10. I'd rather have peace than an extra 2 hours worth of labor trying to get something that's not even that valuable, if that makes any sense. I prefer peace over everything. I think that on Maslow, was it Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Haslow? I don't know if it was Maslow, or Hasbro. I think it was Hasbro's hierarchy of needs. The low one being the game Monopoly, the next one being Hot Wheels race cars. Anyway, it's a little different than Mattel's hierarchy of needs. Anywho, the hierarchy of needs I'm talking about is like, it looks like essentially a triangle. And at the bottom, human needs is like security, food, and sleep, like the most basic shit. So the point is, once you have that, you move up a tier. And once you have, security and food and shelter, you look for like sex and reproduction and things like that. And once you are already kind of on the lookout for that, maybe you look for artistic. What's that when you like find I can't think of the word for some reason. Artistic, like when you express yourself artistically, like artistic fulfillment. Spirituality and stuff like that is the next level up. And like by the time you get to the top, you want like all your lower level needs are so satisfied that the tippy top of the triangle is like, I want extra caviar on my ice cream sundae that's served to me by a naked maiden on the top crow's nest of my $1 yacht. Like that's the tippy top of the thing. And unfortunately, most human beings that are even at that level, they'd be like, but there's not enough caviar. Couldn't my naked servant be a little better looking? Couldn't the crow's nest be a couple inches higher? Couldn't we do this in the Arctic Sea rather than the Baltic? How come my yacht's white? Shouldn't it be black? It's a little chilly, wouldn't you say? How come I can't control the environment completely? How come I don't have control of the sun? I'll never feel happy until I go to the moon. So the people at the very top, these are people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they're still never satisfied, which is ironic because I think some of the most satisfied people are the aforementioned silent Buddhist monks who really only have the bottom tier. They're like 3 or 4 up. They're covered. To be a silent Buddhist monk, you have to be not too worried about a fucking tiger. Although I guess if you're silent, maybe they wouldn't hear you and you'd have a pretty good chance of escape. But if you're not worried about tigers, you have your fucking vegetarian curry that I'm assuming Buddhist silent monks eat. I know that they're vegetarians. And then you got your monastery on top of a mountain that you live at. And I guess the point is that you feel satisfied. Maybe your version of the caviar and the crow's nest with the naked servant, your version of that is pure enlightenment. The kind of enlightenment you feel after 2 straight months of silent meditation in the forest. But maybe this hypothetical Buddhist monk goes, yeah, but I need to do 3 months. I'm not completely enlightened yet. I'm 99.9% of the way there towards enlightenment, but I didn't discover the actual secrets of spirituality and God in the universe. So I'm actually not complete. I'm not fulfilled, and I'm not happy, and I'm sad, and I'm depressed, and I want to die. And then I jumped off the mountain. And all the other Buddhist monks, they gather and they want to say, like, why'd he do it? But they can't because they're silent. Why did he do it? I thought he had everything going for him. He was so enlightened. He was more enlightened than me. I was only 89.9% enlightened. He was 99.9, but I guess that 0.01 just threw him off the cliff. Anywho, I say all that to say that I just want peace. I don't want to argue about nonsense. I don't want to try to get one over on somebody. I don't like playing tricks. You know what my least favorite thing about, speaking of playing tricks, my least favorite thing about the current system of like musical promotion, which is basically social media videos, is like whenever you make a video of your song, like the whole thing is you have to like trick people into watching it. Like, what hook can we put on the first 3 seconds of this to get you to watch the rest? Because you can't just kind of like hear a song and think it feels delightful. It has to be like, this is the song you play when your 8th grade teacher goes to the dance. Can you relate? Did this create fake relatability? Did this tickle your emotions in the way only an AI algorithm can? I don't know what I'm talking about. I never know really exactly what I'm talking about. None of this is planned, but I can say that it's annoying to me when we have tiffs, disputes, and arguments and disagreements about things that are just unnecessary, man. I'm sure that I'm not going to say like the specific nature of what I'm talking about, but I'm sure that some of you have these. You have somebody that always wants to get something over on somebody or whatever. Just anything that causes your peace to be distracted. And now you get my point. I don't think I have to go further. Anywho, just here doing a podcast. Doing my podcast because I want to do it. I want to be responsible, and I want to do the things that I tell myself I'm going to do. I want to have integrity. You know, I'm holding myself accountable, and I'm doing the shit. Even though I had a lot of shit to do today, which is all life is, as I said a couple podcasts ago, is a series of to-do lists. And that's all it is. And as far as my current to-do list, and it's been like this for a while, I think you guys might be able to relate to this. I have a lot of things on my to-do list for both work, family, home stuff, whatever it is, friend stuff. I have a lot of stuff that's kind of like long-term stuff. It's not something I got to do right now. You know, it's not like a high priority thing, but I would like to do it. And the problem is every single day I end up having short-term stuff that's like, this has to be done now, high priority. And all the short-term stuff happens every day, and then the days go by. And then the weeks go by. And then the months go, the years go, the decades, the centuries, dead. And you just die, and you didn't do any of the long-term stuff that you wanted to do, you know? But yeah, it's hard to get all the things that I want to get done when every single day I have immediate stuff I have to do, you know? Little things like, you know, obviously stuff you got to do like wash the dishes and take care of your kid and shit like that, but career stuff on a day-to-day basis, like if I have a show, I have to prepare for that show. I got to get all the merchandise ready for that show, you know? It's not all me. I do have a team and people that help me, but you know, I end up getting in phone calls. I actually also just like talking to my friends on the phone. So sometimes I'll just get caught up in a good conversation, and then the day will go by. That's the Family Matters theme song. And you know what? Family does matter. It matters more than anything. That was a nice burp right on the podcast. Should I hold the microphone up to my butt and fart as well? Jesus Christ, you rude son of a bitch. Yeah, this podcast is just me talking to myself. If my thoughts were loud and in the mic, they would sound something like what you're hearing currently. It is not an emergency. It's nothing that you need to hear. Take the headphones off your ear. 'Cause if you didn't hear this now, your life would be better off anyhow. On Wax's podcast. So I did have a really good weekend. You know, I had a weekend full of shows. I did a show in San Diego with my full band. I did a show in Los Angeles with my full band and my DJ. And my full band contains my twin brother and my best friend, Davey Nathan. So I had a really good time, and also these shows were something that I spent a long time preparing for. So not only were they fun, but I felt a lot of relief at the end. But you know what? Every time I get something done and I feel relief, you only get like a couple seconds to feel the relief. So this San Diego show was booked for a long time ago. It's an Oktoberfest outdoor show, and the contract required that I have a band. So I recruited I got my homies in my band that all live in LA, but I didn't want to bother them with this shit, so I recruited a band that's here in San Diego. Then once I already had the band recruited, lo and behold, I had another show booked in Los Angeles the day after. So instead of like having my LA band, I was like, y'all want San Diego band? Y'all want to just ride up to LA for the next show? So we did that, and it was great. Both shows were fun. Everybody seemed to have a good time that came through. I had a really good time on stage. I still love doing it. I still love making music. And I still even love performing the music. It's not just the writing. The writing's my favorite part, but performing it is really fun. Having moments with the people in the audience is really fun. And but yeah, the prep is a lot. All the rehearsal and the stress and getting everything ready to go. But the most stressful part is trying to promote it and sell tickets and stuff like that. But this leads to, like, when it's done, you feel a little bit of relief. So after the show in LA was done, I guess my relief was, I didn't really party or anything, but me and my brother, we went to In-N-Out Burger, and I got a milkshake and a burger. And then I chilled out that night. And then the next day I woke up, and now here I am, a couple days later, doing my podcast. Hey, this is Wax with an ad read. Do you want me to read your ad? Email me at beatsforwax@gmail.com. Let's make a deal. Anyway, today's ad is for wax.com.com. WAXDOTCOM.com. Get concert tickets. Get yourself a t-shirt. I got hoodies up there. I got coffee mugs and all kind of crazy stuff up there. So get yourself some merch. Back to the show. Don't include the back to the show part, Gwen. Or if you do, include me saying that I didn't like that I said that. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I have a little mark right here. I've had this fucking thing on my nose. It's not a pimple. Maybe it was a pimple. I don't know. But a pimple doesn't last for 2 years. I had this mark that was like kind of like a mini kind of cyst thing living in there. It wouldn't go away, and I would always mess with it and try to pop it, and it would like bleed a lot. And it was always gross. It probably looks just like it does now. And, I'm getting older, and my wife is more responsible than me, and she's concerned for my health. So she was like, you need to go to the dermatologist. You need to go to the dermatologist. I said, I don't like dermatologists. They really get under my skin. Anyway, that joke has probably been made 4,000 times. But I went, and I thought that the dermatologist, because, my wife was like, if that thing stays there and it doesn't come back, you should get it checked out. Like, if that thing's skin cancer, it would be great to know now, get it removed and have it not spread all over your fucking body, then you die. So I went to the dermatologist yesterday, and she looked at it, and she was like, well, why don't we just cut it off? And she said, shave it off, and we'll send it to the lab to see what it is. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't know I was going to have like a mini surgery right here now today. I thought it was like more of a let's check it out, and if you wanted to do something like that, there'd be another appointment. But no, they just do it right there. They do a biopsy, they call it. They just shave that shit off and send it to the lab. So the assistant came in there, and she numbed up my nose with a shot, a needle. And she goes, are you scared of needles? I was like, not really. Why? And she's like, well, the nose is really sensitive. It can be very painful. And as far as I can remember, I've never had a shot directly in, like it went into the nose, like through it like that, like almost like the way you fucking, the way that you, it's not like direct into it, it's up and into it, like the way that you fucking put a worm on a hook, you kind of want it to go through the whole thing. But she did 2 shots into my nose, and it was so fucking painful that I screamed. I'm a vocal person, I just screamed right there at the dermatologist's office, to the point where I know that people outside of it heard. And I screamed, and then she had to do it again. She had to do it again, and the second time I did a lighter scream. I just wasn't prepared for how painful it was, and it's kind of funny how they give you this shot to numb you up so you won't feel pain. I actually think it would have been less painful for them to fucking just, without any anesthetic, just shave the fucking thing off. I actually think that would have been less painful than the actual shot that had the anesthetic. But they did it, and I had a Band-Aid on my nose, a little circular Band-Aid that my daughter kept trying to rip off. Sticker. She just thought it was a sticker, which it is a sticker. Band-Aid is just really a sticker with some extra shit going on. And but yeah, it stuck on there really well. And I haven't really looked at it today, and I don't want to touch it. I can't tell if like the core of the zit, the core of the cystic zit is still there. I can't remember what she said. It was like her theory was that there's something like at the end of an artery. Sometimes it gets clogged up or some shit. I don't know, but we'll find out what it is in 2 weeks. Dun dun dun. Next 2 podcasts from now, you can find out if I had any actual skin issues. I don't want to even say cancer because I don't want to fucking whatever. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it hurt like shit. But you know how I get down, man. Getting old. You gotta do it. You know, you gotta go to the doctor. You gotta get shit checked out. You don't want to not catch something early. And I appreciate my wife for caring about my health like that, because I would have never gotten it checked out. And I did it. I went there. They shaved that shit off, and we'll find out what it is. I screamed in the dermatologist's office, and then had a nice discussion with the nurse practitioner about. I was like, "You do this shit every day?" And like her face, it was cool. You ever like sometimes you can make somebody's day. I don't want to make it a gender thing, but I think even more so for a female. Like if you ask them how they're doing, what's going on in their life, you know what I mean? I was just like, damn, you do this shit every day? You must love it, huh? And she's like, she was ready to talk about it. And she's like, sure enough, I think a lot of people that worked at dermatologist office they just love like removing cysts and removing, you know. She was like, my favorite ones are something that starts with a L, which is just like a big ass cyst that you have to remove. And she just loves doing that. She's probably one of the people that watches those pimple popping videos on the internet. And I get it, because I totally have watched those too. I can see why that stuff is satisfying. Yeah, maybe that's something in human nature as well. I don't know. I think I talked about it before, but when I go to the disc golf course by my house, I don't play. I think I would like to start playing, honestly. But there's all these guys out there. They got 50 different discs for just a par 3 course. I know now how there's all these different discs for, like, some go left, some go right, some drop early, some hang for a long time, whatever. But I just see all these dudes out there doing that, whether it's disc golf or regular golf. I think it's like there's some caveman instinct to hunt. And now that we just go to fucking Trader Joe's and get salmon and already chopped up chicken, people still have that little desire to hunt, but they don't hunt, so they're aiming at the fucking, what do they call the disc golf thing? The chain, the basket, I think that they call it. They aim at the basket as if it was an elk on the Canadian plains, or whatever you want to call it. They might not realize that they're pretending to hunt, but they are, because there's some kind of hunting instinct. Anyway, that's my little theory of the day. Let's pause my theoretical pontification. Somebody told me I used the word pontificate wrong, and I'm going to fucking continue. I'm going to pontificate to pontificate incorrectly-ificate. Anyway, let's get to some questions and shout-outs. All right, my laptop doesn't work anymore. The screen doesn't work. Everything dies at some point. Just like human beings, laptops die, electronic items die, whatever it is. So rest in peace to my goddamn laptop. This one is from Charlie. Charlie from Somerset, UK. I'm happy to see you doing the podcast again. Your recent podcast had a person write in from Scotland. And I'd like to say that I'd love to see you this side of the pond. I'm working on something, man. I'm working on it. It might not be super soon, but there's talks. I met someone who was at the Watsky Rafter Jumps show, and they said it was crazy. I haven't ever been able to catch you live, so whilst I'd love to organize and pay for it, I do not have the facilities for that, so best I can offer right now is explicit interest in a definite ticket purchase. On to my question. How is being a dad? My wife and I are trying for our first kid, and I'm terrified I won't have any free time. I've been putting it off for a while. Whilst, you're a big whilst user. Whilst Chamberlain over here. Whilst my wife has been ready for some time, but it helps me to hear people speak about it positively. I'm usually met with, you'll never get any sleep, or things of that nature. How are you finding it? That's interesting. Somebody I know on social media, a friend of mine, talked about how when people tell her, oh man, your life's about to change. She hates when people tell her that. People used to tell me that. I remember DJ Hoppa telling me that, and I didn't really take it as a negative or a positive, just like a change. Like if you change from, it's like almost like a color change. If you change from a green room to a blue room, like it's not really positive or negative. It's just different. And, different people take different comments different ways. Also, it's way harder. She is a woman, and everything is harder for a woman when it comes to this whole having babies shit, obviously. But how are you finding it? You'll never get any sleep and all that stuff. Yeah, your sleep goes down. An interesting thing, especially within the first year. I mean, my kid's almost 2, the second year too. It's crazy how used to getting up in the middle of the night that you get. It just becomes it just becomes normal. At first it's kind of tough with the whole lack of sleep thing, but it just becomes normal. I remember being really, really scared, really fearful about becoming a dad when my wife was pregnant. You try saying that at home. Just sit there by yourself or in your office, wherever you are, everywhere, and just 10 times say, when my wife was pregnant, when my wife was pregnant, when my wife was pregnant. Anywho, being a dad's awesome. Being a dad is, I described it to him. I have a good friend of mine, shout out Zach Sherwin. He is going to be a dad, and I told him that, it's like putting another chip in that Trivial Pursuit circle. But it's not even really like that, because you didn't really see, it's almost like the Trivial Pursuit circle that you used to have that was totally full of chips. It like opens up another space for a chip that you didn't even know, another pizza slice that you didn't even really know existed. And it takes you to like another level of being a human being in general. It kind of makes you go like, damn, this is kind of the whole point of this shit. If you think about it, it is. The whole point of being a human being is to reproduce. If you look at it, if you step out and look at it from a long-term perspective, you're just supposed to reproduce. So once if you don't reproduce and you never experience it, you could still feel whole. But when you do, you're like, damn, this really is a whole different thing that I hadn't experienced before. And it's full of joy. It's full of difficulty. But life is supposed to be, this kind of goes with the AI discussion. The AI people say like their whole goal is to replace human labor. And that would assume that like free time and, leisure is what makes you fulfilled and happy, which is actually not the case. It's the difficulty that makes it awesome. And, there's little things that happen that just feel so good. And just hanging out with my daughter is so, especially when she's in a good mood, is the shit. Blowing bubbles, take her outside to ride her bike. She frolics around. The one time, the one time that was really nice that like really hit me hard was when I think I might have mentioned it on the podcast when I taught her how to dip French fries in ketchup. But you're constantly teaching her about things that happen. Like she's just getting to that point. I remember when my brother's kids were at this point where she's about to be obsessed with the trash truck. Like this morning, this window right here is where the trash truck, you can see it out of. And so she hears it and she runs over here and she watches the trash truck pick up the garbage. And, it just little things that seem so trivial, not to use the word trivial so much, but things that seem trivial to us seem new and fresh to her, and it's cool to see everything from the mind's eye of a child who doesn't really know anything yet. And even though it is difficult and it does fuck up your free time, it's amazing. The thing about the free time, and other fathers and mothers will tell you this, especially musicians or writers or artists. Even though you have technically less time, the time that you do have becomes more valuable, and you use it more wisely. It's like a crash course in time management that you didn't ask to take. You just have to be better at time management. And there's also like some kind of caveman instinct that kicks in for providership, which kind of steps that up too. But it's awesome, man. I know, I totally understand that it's scary, but once the kid is there, you don't have time to be scared anymore. You're just in it. And it certainly is. It certainly does. You were one way and now you're another. You were Charlie from Somerset, but now you're going to have a whole new identity. Like somebody told me, like, when your kid is born, it's not just that they're born. You're reborn as a dad. It's the first time in your life that you're a father. And, knock on wood, like for the rest of your life, you're a father. Your baby mama is a mother, etc. Loving the recent videos and music. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. Got another one here. This one is from... Oh, shit. Did I not... Okay. Hi, Wax. Gene the Bean here. Gene the Bean is a frequent emailer to the new rebirth of the podcast. Last week, me and my family went to the San Diego Zoo for the first time ever. The place was super dope. It was by far the best zoo I've ever been to. There's so much to see that you can't really experience it all in just one trip. You said you have a membership there. I do. Not only do I have a membership to the San Diego Zoo, but I've had memberships in the past, and I've been to the San Diego Zoo a shitload of times because we would always go there with my brother's kids, and now I go there with my kids. And I've even been there just with adult friends of mine. And if you have the pass, it pays for itself in 2 visits, and it's something like it's easy to get to. It's easy to park. You walk in. Like if you just have a couple hours free, you can go just, you could even go there just for exercise. It's a good place to take a walk. So my question for you is, what are your top 3 animals to see when you go to the zoo? Thanks for answering. Interestingly enough, take the polar bear, for example. The polar bear is like the farthest away exhibit that you can go to in the zoo. It used to be even worse because I remember before they built the bridge that goes over everything. So, it would take a long time to get to the back corner of the zoo and see the polar bear. But with the polar bear, it's not like it's out there doing circus tricks and somebody's whipping it like, hey, do the show for the people. You know what I mean? By the way, this was like 2 days ago, the fucking gorilla broke the glass at the San Diego Zoo. It didn't shatter, but it cracked. So that was pretty crazy. Anywho, the polar bears, this is a zoo, it's not a circus, so the animals do whatever they want. Like you might go and see, a sleeping tiger. You might see a crouching tiger or a hidden tiger. But you never know if the animal's going to be asleep. He could be back in, it could not even be in the exhibit because it's back getting taken care of, or it's got a sickness, or they got to do some kind of doctor shit to it. I don't know, veterinarian, whatever. But there was, most of the time when you go see the polar bear is like asleep kind of in the back of the exhibit. Maybe it's eating something and not doing much. But probably 1 out of 10 times you go, the motherfucker is, like, there was one time I went where there was the 2 polar bears in there were like having like a diving contest. Like there's, the polar bear has like a big pool, like a fake water lake structure. And, they be going swimming in there. And this time there was 2 polar bears, and they kept on diving into it, swimming around, then getting back up. And they had a beach ball, and it was on some circus shit, and it was amazing. It was like probably the best thing I've seen at the zoo. But you always go back there to hoping that that's going to happen again, but every time it's kind of disappointing. So like that was the top number one thing I've seen at the zoo was the day when I saw two bowler pairs. When I saw two bowler pairs having a dive off into their fake lake structure, while also like padding around a beach ball. That was the number one. But I wouldn't say it's the top three animals because usually when you go back there, you know, it's kind of like if you're playing roulette, to go see the polar bears is like putting your money on a number. Like you still do it and hope that you win big, but you're better off seeing the gorillas because the gorillas almost always are interesting to see. Because just you're kind of like very often they'll be like right in front of the glass just chilling, and it's just fascinating to look at them. They're so big and strong, but also human-like, and it's almost every time it's interesting to watch them. So I think I would put the gorillas and the polar bears in my top three. You know, there's a lot of them that are kind of whatever. Like, I mean, honestly, even the elephants, besides the fact that when you look at an elephant, you're like, how the fuck does that even exist? How is that real? Same thing with the giraffes. But the elephants are relatively lackluster in terms of stuff they might do. What else they got? I like the porcupine. Porcupine's pretty cool. What else do they got? God, you know what's an underrated one is the bears. They have when you go down to the bottom of the zoo and then you there's a long essentially ramp. Then there was that like ice cream and Asian food section. And then it goes down further and there's the panda bears. But the first ramp, it's like grizzly bears and just kind of like brown bears, or like there might be some other. I don't remember exactly what kind of bears they are, but they're kind of chilling there. And one of them has a little baby, and they're kind of an underrated one. People don't stop and watch them because everybody's so interested in the panda bears. And the panda bears is always like this huge line. It's like the panda bears are like the really good, cool nightclub that once you get inside, you're like, really? All that wait for this? Whereas the regular bears are almost like a smaller dive bar where you can get a drink pretty quick, but the music's really good. And you're like, damn, this is actually kind of doper than the panda bears. So I'm going to go with the bears, the grizzly bear, the polar bear, and the gorillas. And then there's all kind of, if you got, even the flamingos are kind of dope. That's like the first thing you see when you go in, but my kid loves the flamingos. Flamingo. Anyway, it's probably not put me on the spot a little bit with that one. I didn't think that through ahead of time. Anyway, this one's from Enrique O. Yo, what's up, bro? I don't know if you've talked about this, but what made you stop drinking? Honestly, I'm having trouble with alcohol myself. It's a hard thing to stop. I had to stop slinging the green for work, but alcohol is tough. I drink about 6 beers a day and 2 buzz balls. Any advice will help. I want to quit, but I'm having trouble. Some other stuff too, but let's get down to this one. What made me stop drinking was that I was kind of like you. I drank every day, and I drank kind of like where you're at. If you're drinking 6 beers and 2 buzz balls every single day, that's a pretty good amount, honestly. And it doesn't seem like a lot when you're doing it. And I was doing 12 beers a day, but I didn't have buzz balls, so we're probably not that far off. And you kind of experience this everyday kind of sludge feeling, especially once you get older. And it's just like this sludge feeling just feels like norm. I mean, if you picture every single sidewalk that you walk on every day, say you walk to work every day and the sidewalks were made of mud. After a while, you'd be like, yeah, sidewalks are made of mud. And you won't realize until, fucking in this metaphor, some magical god comes through, or some, a fucking cement truck comes and turns the sidewalks into cement. And you're like, holy shit, I didn't know walking to work could be this easy. And that's kind of how I look at it with alcohol. Once you quit, it's not just about how you feel when you're drunk. It's about how you feel when you're not. I think even more so. Like your highs, your standard operating is just higher, You don't operate in a state of like sluggishness and gloom. You operate in a higher vibration, as people say. But what made me do it is I guess I had just had enough, man. I had done all these times where I'd quit for 30 days, I quit for 100 days, I quit for 50 days, or I just like, I'm not drinking in January, or I'm not drinking this week, or whatever it was. And it was always such a challenge, you know? And then when you're done the challenge, you go back and you go back with a vengeance. Like whenever I would quit drinking for a month, which usually would be more like, once I get to like the 20s, like if I was like, I'm not drinking in January 25th, I'd usually be like, okay, that was pretty good, and just start drinking. And when you dive back in, you dive into the deep end because you think you deserve it or something. It's like celebrating. Anyway, so I guess I just did that for years. And after one particularly hard like bender that I was on, I lived with my boy Davey at the time. I've told this story on the podcast before, but maybe you haven't heard it. It's a really simple story. Davey, who, you know, I had lived by myself for a few years in different places, and then once I moved in with Davey, I think he kind of realized, like, oh man, my boy has a little bit has a problem, you know, because you can kind of keep that stuff to yourself if you just drink by yourself. People don't know that, like, when you go home from the party, that you're stopping at the liquor store first and having a bunch of by yourself booze before the night ends, you know. But Davey could tell because I lived with him, so he was like, "Yo, how about you quit?" Because I was like, "Oh man," like I'd had a crazy little bender, and I was saying I was gonna quit for a little bit and take it easy and slow down and all this shit. He was like, "Why don't you quit for 2 years?" He's like, "Have integrity. Tell yourself you're gonna do it and do it." And I like made a little vow, little pact, and I ended up doing it. I mean, I know that sounds like easier. It's easy to say, then I quit for 2 years, but it was very fucking hard. I tried doing AA and stuff like that, and I figured it kind of found out it wasn't for me. The things that help me the most, like I tell people, is physical activity and meditation and yoga and stuff like that. Also, having something like doing music, I think, is helpful. But that shit, like once I was like a year in, it coincided with the pandemic. And even before the pandemic happened, I remember I was like super, super, super depressed, like to the point where I was going to these like group therapy things that were it wasn't really AA, but it was essentially AA, but it was like people that have drug and alcohol problems that have led to depression. And I was doing these things, and I remember the timeline because I remember a session of that group therapy where the big buzzword was COVID-19. And this must have been February of 2020, and I was the guy in class who was like, man, this shit ain't going to be nothing. This is going to be like the bird flu or the swine flu or whatever these other overhyped diseases that they talk about. This ain't going to be shit. And sure enough, that was probably the last time we even had the group meeting because COVID-19 happened and everything shut down and all that. So that's how I remember that, but I remember I was just like super, super depressed. So it was not easy because when you drink for a long time every day, and then you let it go. After a while, all the emotions that you've been pushing down to the bottom, I guess, start to surface, and you got to kind of deal with them. But then once you come out the other side, life is at least for me, life is way easier, life is better, and I don't really like fiend for it like that. I mean, like I said last week when I was in Las Vegas, it would have been nice, but I had some non-alcoholic beers, and it was a fine substitute, so... You know, I can't even imagine like living like that with my kid. Like, you know, she needs me. I can't be fucking blacked out drunk. Anyway, I hope that helped. I don't know if that helped or not, but anywho, this is Austin down in Texas. I'm assuming you mean your name is Austin and you live in Texas. It says, much love from Austin down in Texas. It could be either way. That could be the city you live in or your name, but I think it's your name. Yo, Wax, glad to see you back. I've missed the podcast and I've been enjoying it. Since you've been gone, I done joined a band. We recorded our first single over the weekend, and the studio environment was great. Have you ever been in a studio and it's just not flowing the way you want? I don't know if that means, because you said it was great, and now you said flowing. Maybe that was just like a hypothetical. Also, I have to mention that Intuition and Equilibrium, he said, I know it's Equilibrium. He said Equilibrium. I know it's Equilibrium. Is dropping an album called Leave a Mark on October 17th. It's Lee's first project since 2013, and the singles that he released so far are really well done. I know you and him used to collab back in the day, so I hope he's got a joint with you on there. Glad to see a few good artists are coming back in the mix. Much love from Austin down in Texas. Well, first of all, me and Lee are good friends. We've actually, in recent years, we've actually developed more of like an actual personal friendship, partially due to the fact that he also moved to the San Diego area, partially because he is a father of one child as well. And so I've already heard the whole album. It's great. There are 0 features on the album. It's a very introspective album from Intuition, and I think it's awesome. And I also think the content he's putting out for it is not only great, but it also really fits with the vibe of the thing. So yeah, shout out Intuition and Equilibrium. Make sure you check out their new album. I guess that drops this week. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Intuition actually jumped up and did a freestyle with me this past weekend, and he told me before he jumped up that it was his first time on stage in 10 years. So yeah, he killed it, especially considering that. So yeah, make sure you check that out. As far as you being in the studio, and have you ever been in a studio and it's just not flowing the way you want? Yes. Too many times to count. So many fucking times. That's happened for a wide variety of reasons. Sometimes it's like depression. Sometimes back in the day it was like pressure. Sometimes I've had times in my life where I got writer's block due to various different reasons. Sometimes it's just you just can't think of shit that day. Sometimes you think of bad shit that day. Sometimes you are trying too hard. But recently things have been a little bit better. Recently I've been in a good flow state, So yeah, but I can't even answer that question because the answer is yes to the nth degree. But back when I was I'll say this, back when I was signed to Def Jam, there were certain sessions. Once I was going for a while and I was making all this music, and they were kind of saying that they didn't like it. Not that they didn't like it, but they needed me to make something that was a hit. Come on, you got to make a hit. And I was kind of starting to try to make the quote-unquote hit, and after a while you're like, is this good? No, is this good? And then you start to just doubt your own judgment, and once you doubt your instincts and judgment when you're making music, you're pretty much fucked. And there was times where I got really, really sad, and at that time I was drinking a lot too. But I remember at that time I was much more worried about how other people thought of me. Like I moved with fear much more often. And I remember being in a studio in Atlanta that they had put me in. And, I was with these producers who just there was just every once in a while, there'd just be people that maybe knew them that would just be in the studio, and I'd be writing or recording or whatever. And for me, when there's random, I'd be better now than I was then. But even now, if there's random strangers in the studio and they're just kind of looking at me, and I know, by looking at them, they're like, "Who's this guy? Is he good? Let me see. Let me sit here and judge him and see if he's good." That paralyzes me. I'm like, I don't fucking know you. Get out of here. That's not how I operate. I think some people operate in a way where that kind of shit feeds them. Like let me show this motherfucker what I got or whatever. That actually doesn't work like that for me. Maybe if it was a girl, maybe it'd be a help in some kind of ways. I don't know, but just some let me see what kind of lyrics he's got. That doesn't help me. That hurts me because I don't want. I want the shit to flow from the conduit of God or whatever, not from. It's not an ego thing for me. I don't know, but yeah, that's happened to me a million times. Hola Wax, congrats on playing the Roxy. You and Herbs on stage together is something that I'll never get enough of. Been a fan since 2008, and those old freestyles you guys would drop in the kitchen have aged like fine wine and pair nicely with grilled moose steaks, this guy says. I don't know who this... Did I not get this person's name? Oh, this is Andrew from Anchorage, Alaska. No wonder he's talking about moose steaks. This is the last email I got. It's kind of a long one, y'all. My question for you is, way back in those days, you guys did a remix for an Esme Denters song called Admit It, and even included a free download link. I haven't been able to find the original upload or even high-quality re-upload anywhere, and my download has been lost. What happened to that song? My guess her label had something to do with it. This track had everything. Beatboxing, Herbs on bass, a dope verse, and even an acoustic guitar solo. I don't remember. I do remember the existence of this. I don't remember what it sounded like. Very much in the style of Low Budget. I thought this remix was amazing and introduced me to a new artist, and at the time I was certain this was a sign of more remixes to come. Especially since you love exploring so many genres, I was stoked on what would get remixed next. I love all the original music you both make, but I was a little surprised when no more remixes were released. I'm sure copyright and licensing is a bitch to deal with, but just curious as to why it was shelved and nothing more was ever remixed, at least not that I'm aware of. Thanks again for the dope music. Hope you and the family are doing well. That's R.I.P. D'Angelo, man, indeed. R.I.P. D'Angelo. Real quick. Yesterday D'Angelo passed. He was only 51. By the way, he had pancreatic cancer, and yet another reason you ought to be wary of your health. Make sure you get yourself checked out, and if you can find something at the beginning and get it removed. I don't know his story. I have no idea what this story is with how his health went, but I know it's pancreatic cancer. So I can't say enough about how much D'Angelo affected me. That fucking Voodoo album, even before that, the song Brown Sugar, I didn't really bump the Brown Sugar album when it was out, although I have since. But I even loved the most recent album, Black Messiah, was fucking great. But especially that Voodoo album, man. That Voodoo album was life-changing and just like genre-shattering, and that album means so much, especially to musicians. It kind of changed everything. It kind of changed the way people hear a lot of things, myself included. And you'd be really, really hard pressed to find somebody that's between 30 and 60 that makes music that wasn't affected by that. Just brilliant shit, and a real one of the best of our time for sure. It's like I wish he would have made more shit, but that's how people are sometimes, man. They're not necessarily, some of the best people, speaking of people having a hard time in the studio or whatever, drugs, whatever it was. But I think he had 3 albums total, man. He had obviously features here and there, and he worked on a lot of the stuff that was, with Questlove and Dilla and the Soulquarians and all that, like some of those old Common albums. One Day It All Makes Sense and Electric Circus and all that. I think D'Angelo had a huge hand in all that stuff. But there was an era that I'm talking about that Voodoo was produced in. But it just really sucks that he's not going to make anything else too, man. That sucks to know, because it was such a fucking happy and amazing moment when Black Messiah came out. And that Voodoo especially, man, that just was like one of those albums that who knows what's going to happen, who knows what the music industry will be in 20 years, or even if the human race will still exist in 20 years, but that album will live on forever, dude. Like that album changed a lot of things about the way that people hear music, and just really, really drastically affected the way people make music. I mean, even my last single I put out from my album, Shit I Used to Do, you can hear it there, and you can just hear it everywhere. But rest in peace, D'Angelo, indeed, man. As far as this Esme Denters remix you're talking about, it's funny that you thought it was going to be a sign of more remixes, because me and my brother, we never intended to do any remixes. This thing you're talking about, which is damn near, is like from like 2008 or something like that. I had a meeting with this guy who worked for, I don't even remember the name of it. At the time, Justin Timberlake owned a record label, and he had an artist named Esme Denters. And I guess we had met with her lawyer or something like that, and he saw our low budget video and was like, because I was trying to get a deal, dude. I was trying to like, yo, how can I was trying to make money off music in any way I could. I was fucking delivering groceries, So I think that what happened was they saw that me and my brother had some views on YouTube at that time. Whatever amount of views the low budget video had was seen as a lot, or at least something that would be good promotion for this artist. So they asked us to do the remix, and we did it, and we had a lot of fun with it. But rather than them doing anything to help us, I think they were kind of looking at it like this is something that would help them. I never like met her, or I don't even remember how the song goes, but I do remember doing the remix, and it was a lot like the low budget thing. And we never intended to do more. We just did it because they asked us to. It wasn't our choice. They asked us and we did it. And there's not really much besides that. I don't know why. Is it? I guess they must have taken it down. I don't think it was my choice to take it down. I don't even remember why that's not up on YouTube anymore. No idea. I just simply don't remember. And that being said, I think that's a good way to end this podcast. I don't remember, man, because there's a lot of things in my life where that would be the answer to the question of why did this happen? Why did that happen? When did this happen? Who's that? I don't remember, man. It's like my version of It Wasn't Me by Shaggy. I don't remember. Was that you? I don't remember. I don't remember shit. So, that's all I got, man. Be safe out there.